Echoes of the Void, Part 3. The moment I woke, I felt it, the hum. Faint but growing, resonating deep within my chest like a second heartbeat. The voice's final declaration, "The threshold is open," wasn't just words, it was a statement of inevitability. I was no longer just an observer. I was a part of it now. The chill settled into my bones, deeper than anything I'd ever felt. It was the kind of cold that seeped into your thoughts, froze your resolve, and left you teetering on the edge of despair. It was the kind of cold that seeped into your thoughts, froze your resolve, and left you teetering on the edge of despair. I didn't remember how I got home that night. My memories blurred together, disjointed and feverish, as though my mind had tried to shield me from recalling what I'd seen. But the words wouldn't leave me. For the next 3 days, the world around me seemed different. The mark on my arm itched and burned intermittently, as if it were reacting to something unseen. It filled me with a swirling mix of emotions, fear at its relentless spread, confusion about its true nature, and a deep, gnawing sense of inevitability. It wasn't just a mark, it was a promise, a binding connection to something vast and incomprehensible. Each pulse felt like a silent message, urging me closer to the unknown. I found myself flinching at sudden sounds, and shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally in my peripheral vision. Subtle, imperceptible shifts that would have been easy to dismiss if not for the ever-present hum in the back of my mind. Subtle, imperceptible shifts that would have been easy to dismiss if not for the ever-present hum in the back of my mind. People walked the streets as if nothing had changed, but I noticed the way their gazes lingered longer on the sky. Dogs barked at nothing, their hackles raised. Birds circled aimlessly before scattering, as though they sensed something we couldn't see. Even the light felt wrong, colder, sharper, as if reality itself was being stretched thin. I couldn't avoid the observatory any longer. The pull was stronger now, an almost physical force dragging me back. When I arrived, the parking lot was empty, and the building loomed in the twilight, its windows darkened like hollow eyes. Inside, the air felt heavier than before, the metallic tang stronger. Every step echoed unnaturally, as though the sound was being swallowed by something lurking in the shadows. The terminal in the observation room was still active, its screen glowing faintly in the gloom. The telescope remained locked on the threshold, now unmistakably larger. Tendrils writhed around its edges, and the light at its center had grown brighter, its pulse faster. It felt alive, aware, as if it was looking back at us. I sat at the terminal, my hands trembling as I navigated the files left behind. Most were incomprehensible, jumbled strings of data, corrupted images, spectral analyses that defied interpretation. But one file stood out, a video, timestamped from the night before. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the play button. Then I clicked. The screen flickered to life. The video was grainy, distorted, but the scene was clear enough: the observation room, the telescope, and the man I'd encountered at the terminal. He was alone, pacing frantically, muttering to himself. His voice was barely audible over the static, but I caught fragments. "They're awake, can't stop it, too late." Suddenly, he froze, his head snapping toward the telescope as if he'd heard something. His body tensed, his breathing shallow and rapid, like a cornered animal sensing a predator. For a moment, his eyes widened, reflecting a terror so profound it seemed to hollow him out. Then, slowly, he stepped closer to the telescope, his movement stiff, as though something unseen was pulling him forward against his will. He approached it slowly, hesitantly, and peered through the lens. For a long moment, he stood motionless. Then he screamed, a raw, guttural sound that made my blood run cold. The screen flickered violently, lines of distortion cutting across the image as if the camera itself was recoiling. A low, resonant vibration accompanied his scream, one I could almost feel in my chest, as though the sound carried more than just terror. He stumbled back, clutching his head, and collapsed out of view. The video ended abruptly, the screen going black. I stared at the dark monitor, my mind racing. What had he seen? What had driven him to such terror? And why did I feel that same compulsion to look, to see for myself? That night, the dreams returned, but this time they were different. I was no longer standing before the threshold. Instead, I was inside it. The space around me was vast and suffocating, filled with writhing shapes and incomprehensible geometries that seemed to shift with every blink. Their forms defied logic, angles twisting in impossible ways that made my stomach churn and my vision blur. Each shift felt like a subtle attack on my mind, as though the shapes themselves were alive, probing my thoughts, seeking to unravel my sanity. Disorientation gripped me, and I was overwhelmed by a deep, primal terror, as if every instinct in my body knew I didn't belong here. The air itself felt alive, thick and electric, buzzing faintly as if charged with anticipation. The shapes defied perspective, twisting in ways that made my stomach churn and my thoughts fragment. The tendrils were everywhere, brushing against me, coiling around my limbs. They weren't hostile, not yet. They were curious, exploratory, as if they were trying to understand me. At the center of it all was the light, blinding and pulsating with a rhythm that felt like a heartbeat. It drew me closer, pulling me toward its core. I couldn't resist. The voice returned, deeper and more resonant than before. "You are the key." I woke with a start, gasping for air. My forearm burned, and when I looked, I saw the scar had changed. The circular mark was now darker, more pronounced, and lines branched outward from it like veins. It felt alive, pulsing in time with my own heartbeat. Panic set in as I realized the truth. Whatever this was, it wasn't just connected to me, it was inside me. I had to end this. I returned to the observatory the next night, armed with nothing but desperation and the scattered fragments of information I pieced together. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew the answers lay within the threshold. The telescope loomed before me, its lens focused on that churning void. As I approached, the hum grew louder, resonating in my skull. My vision blurred, and my limbs felt heavy, as though the air itself was trying to hold me back. I peered through the telescope. The void consumed my view, an expanse of shifting darkness that seemed to ripple with intent. The tendrils writhed more violently now, their movements faster, more erratic. The light at the center was blinding, but I couldn't look away. My mind screamed for me to stop, to turn back, but my body refused to obey. The voice returned, louder and clearer than ever. "You will open the door." The tendrils surged forward, and for a moment, I felt them reach through the telescope, wrapping around me. Their touch was cold and slick, like oiled metal, yet alive with a faint, electric vibration. They coiled tightly, pressing against my skin, and I felt a deep, gnawing hunger radiating from them. It wasn't pain, not exactly, but it was invasive, like they were unraveling me from the inside out, thread by thread. My vision went white, and I was no longer in the observation room. The air around me pulsed, vibrating in a rhythm that matched the throbbing mark on my arm. My ears rang with a sound that was neither a roar nor a whisper, but something in between, a cacophony that seemed to bypass hearing and embed itself directly in my brain. I was inside the threshold again, surrounded by its impossible shapes and overwhelming presence. The light enveloped me, and the voice spoke once more, its tone final and absolute. "We are hunger. We are history. We are your future." When I came to, I was lying on the floor of the observation room. The telescope was shattered, its lens cracked and useless. The terminal was dark, and the hum was gone. For a moment, I thought it was over, that I had escaped. But when I looked at my arm, I saw the mark had spread further, its dark lines now reaching my wrist. The pulsing had grown stronger, more insistent. And then I heard it, faint at first, but growing louder. The hum vibrated deep within me, resonating like a second pulse that wasn't my own. It brought with it a rising sense of dread, but also a strange compulsion, an urge to let it take over, to surrender to its rhythm. Each beat seemed to echo in my thoughts, growing stronger, more insistent, until I couldn't tell where the hum ended and I began. It wasn't coming from the observatory anymore. It was coming from me. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if I can stop it, or if it's already too late. But I do know one thing. The threshold isn't just open. It's here, and it's in me. The hum is growing louder, resonating in my chest, syncing with the frantic beating of my heart. I can feel the tendrils in the periphery of my mind, curling, waiting. Whatever comes next. It won't just stop with me.